They worshiped together at the temple each day. They met in homes for the Lord's Supper. They shared meals with great joy and generosity. All the while praising God and enjoying the goodwill of the people. And the Lord added to their fellowship those who were being saved. They worshiped. They met in homes. They ate together, shared meals and joy and generosity. Praising God. Joy in the goodwill of the people. Isn't that what we're here to do today? To enjoy the presence of God, praise Him, blessing each other. After church, we'll all get together. You're all invited. We're just going to have a cookout, picnic out North Chase. You want to know how to get there? We'll tell you. And all the while, the Lord added to the church daily those that were being saved. Father, bless your word. May it bless our hearts. May it change us. In the name of Jesus. And everybody said, Amen. You may be seated. Now, are you excited for the Lord to speak to you?
Amen.
Are you really, you open up your hearts and you're ready for Him to change you?
Yes.
All right. Now, last week, you know that something happened to me. Right?
Amen.
I've become unhinged. I really am excited about what God is going to do. We've had a shift that we have to understand why we are here. We are to be about the Master's business, right? And the goal that we have as a church, if you want to call it a vision or whatever you want to grab hold of or gravitate to. I want you to get this and not miss it. The vision of Gateway Church is to reach the unchurched people in our community. Say it with me. Unchurched people in our community. Unchurched people in our community. They don't look like you. Thank God. They don't dress like you. In fact, they probably don't even have the wardrobe that you have.
Amen.
They may not smell like you. Their skin color may not be the same color that you are. But that's who we're here for.
Amen.
That was weak. That's who we are here for. Amen. To reach the unchurched people in our community and help them to become fully devoted followers of Gateway Church. Of Christ. Of Christ. That's what we're here to do. That's our goal. How many of you have ever been to Disney World? Raise your hand real high. You can't raise it because you don't have any money left, right? How many of you have ever gone to Disney World with a bunch of mature people, adults? Isn't that the most miserable thing you can ever do in your life? Go to Disney World with adults. Right after they bought their ticket, they start. Can't believe how much that just cost me. Start complaining immediately. Get on a ride, complain. You may get 2 rides out of them, and then they're asking, where can we eat? Bored out of their mind. Now, I've done Disney a lot. I'm a Disney person. I'd go to Disney this afternoon if I could. I love it. Some people say it's the greatest place in the world. But I love going to Disney with kids. I love it. I'll never forget when my oldest three were in high school, and they were in course, and I did a lot of things, and I planned some trips, and I coordinated a trip with the course to Disney World. And man, we had some students that had never been to Disney World before, and I wanted them with me. You know, I was amazed. These kids still hung out with me. They didn't look at me as the old guy, because I don't, when I go into Disney, I'm a kid just like everybody else. And I'll never forget going into Disney World, and there was one girl who had never been in her life. And I don't know how old she was, maybe 17, maybe 18, I don't know. But we went in at the front of Disney World. Y'all know that's where the train depot is. And we went up onto that top floor and looked down Main Street. And I just watched this girl with amazement. Oh, she was just beside herself. You go to Disney World with a kid, or you go to Disney World with someone like that, man, everything's different. They are absolutely amazed at what they can see. It's the greatest thing in the world. They'll want to go to one ride, and when they get off of it, they'll say, let's go to another one. And they want to ride the best rides there. They want to ride the fastest roller coasters. They don't care what they are or what the danger is. They go from one to another. They love it. And when you look into their eyes, it makes more meaningful, or makes it more meaningful to you as well. It's more exciting for you when you begin to see it through their eyes for the first time. They're amazed. Why are you telling me all that? Because the same is true when it comes to someone who is new to the faith. When more mature believers take new believers into their lives, and they see them discover the truths of God for the first time, they rediscover the truths for themselves. When they see it through their eyes, it brings more meaning to them as well. A new believer gets excited about the fact that God has saved them from their sins. They get excited about that. They get excited about the joy that God has brought in their life. Man, years ago, I hadn't been to this church. This was 26 years ago. I hadn't been to this church. That is some deep South stuff right there. I hadn't been here very long. For those of you that are visiting, I'll try to act educated. And I had a new gentleman that started coming to church. And man, he was on fire for God. He was like a new baby with a brand new toy. He was Disney World for the first time. And he went to our mature class. I had one class that, well, I can say it, they're not here anymore. Never mind. They were the spiritual ones. Y'all know what I'm talking about? If you've been in church long enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't, forget what I'm saying. Don't worry about it. And well, he was just so excited, and he was talking about this and that, and they came to me. You know what I'm talking about. Pastor, we're going to have to do something about this man. He's so excited, and he's interrupting. And I said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Maybe this is why they're not here when I finish the statement. Don't worry about it. Let them sit in your class long enough, and you'll kill them, and they'll be just as dead as you are. Pastor, that wasn't nice. It was true. You know, I've told y'all a long time ago that if it's not kind, true, and necessary, don't say it. I broke the rule. It definitely wasn't kind. It was, well, let me go on. See, new believers, their lives, they discover something and it excites them. And it should have a positive effect. A new believer, they can't get over the fact that as a sinner, they were saved by the grace of God. They didn't deserve it. They know where they came from, and they're just so overwhelmed by what God has done. A new believer gets excited about the fact that Christ could return at any moment. At any moment, He could come, and they're excited about, man, Jesus may come today, and my life has changed, and I am ready to go. But yes, at the same time, a mature believer maybe has forgotten about the urgency of the Lord's return. They're just going about their business. Although they believe that He's going to come, it's the last thing on their mind. They're just doing their thing. That's why mature believers need younger believers. It's why, as a church, we need to see individual lives being changed. The problem with mature believers is that they can start to stagnate. As a result, sometimes the best thing for them is to have new believers in their lives who ask them questions. What about this? What about that? You know, the other day I had to run down to Holden Beach for just a moment. My mom had called me, and Stephen had texted me. See, Stephen, man, you're a blessing. You're a blessing. He'll text me questions. What about this? What about that? It's exciting. There's others of you that are making a new start within your life, and you text me questions. I'm just thinking, some of you may not have answered it yet. I'm sorry. Just keep asking. And I told Connor, I said, Connor, call Stephen and see if he wants to ride down with us. As we ride down to Holden Beach, and let's just ride down there, let me do what I got to do, and maybe we'll just go out and get something to eat, and then we'll come back. And it's exciting as he asks questions. What about this? What does this mean? It's like that kid who has seen Disney World for the first time. It's exciting. That's why we as a church and as mature Christians, you need new converts in your life. Because if not, you'll become very stagnant in your life. The best thing is to begin to minister to individuals. Show me a church that doesn't have a constant flow of new believers coming in, and I'll show you a church that is stagnating. I'll show you a church that's dying. I'll show you a church of individuals that know the truth, and they're getting more lazy and more lazy as time goes along because they're seeing it through different eyes. With the church of the first century, every day the Lord added to their fellowship those who were being saved. The church of today has a choice. Either we evangelize or we fossilize. Either we evangelize or we'll die. Well, I told you last week a brand new direction within our church. This is why, because this is the future. It's not this little gimmick or that little gimmick. It's simply reaching the lost with the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's simply having an opportunity to invite as many people as you possibly can and bringing in visitors that need a relationship with Christ. That's everyone's job in this church. To evangelize. Well, where am I going to go and get one? What? It's that story I told you a few weeks back. Folks, the woods are full of them. You and I are blessed. We live in a city that's got some really good sinners. They're great. You don't have to go, you don't even have to leave your immediate neighbor. In fact, most of you don't even have to leave your cul-de-sac to get a car full, right?
Amen.
You know that neighbor that you're praying will die? Don't act that holy. I know what some of you are praying. You ought to be praying for them to get saved.
That's right.
You know that neighbor that you're praying that they'll move?
Amen.
I mean, what if they got saved? Well, for some people here, that would be the worst thing in the world for you, because then it would intimidate you to death. Oh man, I've seen some Christians, good old Christians, get intimidated when somebody gets saved. Because they, why? Because they want to go from one ride to the next ride. They want to enjoy the park. They want to enjoy the ride. They want to enjoy what Christ has done in them. They want to tell everybody. They can't get over it. You know what? They come up to me and they say, what do you got going on in church tomorrow night? What do you got the next night? They want to hang out here all the time. But good old Christians, we got to cut revivals back from a week to started on Sunday and ended on Wednesday, or started on Wednesday and ended on Sunday. And now what we do is we just started on Sunday morning, and we're going to have it for the next 4 Sunday mornings, because we don't want to invite somebody to come. Hey, Pastor, why don't we have revivals? Because pastors are sick and tired of having revivals, and they get an evangelist, and the only thing that they see is a Sunday morning crowd, and nobody comes back. Because everything else in our life is more important than worshiping God. Everything. We don't care about the park. We don't care about the rides. We don't care what it has to offer. We've seen it. We've done it. We've been there. And we don't want to go through it again. So people that get saved, they intimidate us. But what they should do is, listen, I'm telling you something. I can't wait until I got grandbabies. Why? Because I can't wait to see Disney World through the eyes of another kid. I mean, whichever one of my kids brings me my first grandchild, I don't even care if they go to Disney World with me. I don't care. But the grandbaby, I can't wait. Can't wait. So I can relive it again. I'm going to get on every roller coaster that I can get on. I'm going to ride everything I can get. I remember when Connor was so young, I took him on Space Mountain. And I wasn't even sure he wasn't going to fall. In fact, I remember he was sitting. How many of you have ever ridden Space Mountain? I had my hands on him, Steve. I sure did. Had my hands on him, making sure that when it went upside down, he didn't fall out. Because I was like, son, you want to do it? Come on, you can do it. It's not that bad. You won't even know it. There were some rides he'd get off of. That's all right. Took Cameron. Well, where were we? Oh, Lord forgive me. We're at Busch Gardens. Man, we took Cameron and we were trying our best. She was that age. It's time, girl. It's time. It's time that you start enjoying being a kid. You see that big roller coaster? You're going to ride it. Oh, I ain't going to ride it. No. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're going to ride it. Took her to that other roller coaster that took you to the edge and it just holds you. And all of a sudden just drops you straight down. Look at that one. Let's go. No way, Daddy. Cameron remembers that day. We got her on that first roller coaster. She came off that thing. Lauren, you remember? She came off that thing. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. She got the bug. Man, that's what Jesus does for you. When He really gets... In fact, some of you mature adults here, you need to get the bug all over again. You need to get a fresh anointing. You need to get a fresh blessing. You need to get a fresh perspective. You need to understand that this thing is not about you. I'm not here to please you as a mature Christian. I'm not here to babysit you. I told you over and over and over. If I got to part your mustache to put a bottle in, you're too old to have a bottle. You're too old for me to be babysitting you. You don't get it. It's not about you. It's not about what we do in here or what we don't do in here. It's about the babies. It's about them. You need to start seeing it through their eyes all over again. You need to start seeing a fresh Christian, a new Christian, and you need to say, God, I want that joy all over again. I want my first love back. I want my joy back. I want my perspective back. I want to do everything that you have me to do. God, I want to ride every ride that you have for me. I want to go down every road that you have for me. I want to experience every blessing that you have for me. Now listen to this. Here's what it says in Revelation, the 3rd chapter, the 8th verse. I've set before you an open door, and no one can shut it. Folks, we got an open door. Do y'all believe that? Wilmington, our surrounding area, is an open door. It is wide open. The gates of hell cannot prevail. Again, you've heard it, and I will tell you again. The gates of hell shall not prevail is not a gate that we put up as a church to try to keep the devil out, and we're saying to ourselves, he can't get in. No. The gates of hell are the barriers that he puts up trying to stop us from evangelizing the world, and the gates of hell will not prevail. The gate that he's put up to stop us, it's not our gate. We got an open door. It's wide open. The fields are white unto harvest. It's ready. And the devil puts blockages everywhere. He puts his gate up and he says, you can't get this one. You can't get that one. You say to yourself, I don't know if my son can get saved. I don't know if my daughter can get saved. I don't know if my marriage can be repaired. I don't know if we can break into this area or that area. I'm telling you, by the power of a living God, the gates of hell shall not prevail. It's time for you to kick down some doors. It's time for you to make a way where there is no way. I want to share something with you that I really want you to get hold of. This door thing is a problem for us as Christians. That we just don't get it. We don't get what he's really trying to tell us and communicate to us about this open door thing. I want you to know that you should never expect a standing ovation in hell when you bring your friends and your family to Jesus. Hell's not excited about that. Anybody here saved? Anybody here saved?
Yes.
Anybody saved? When you do something for God, you need to expect and prepare for some radical satanic opposition. There's no standing ovation in hell. Ooh, he got one. Good job. The devil's not going to like what Gateway Church is about to do in our community. He's not going to like it. Me personally, I don't care. I don't care if he likes it or if he does not. You got to be prepared for the difficulties, and you got to be ready to overcome them. No half-hearted attempts will succeed. No spiritual wimps need apply for this job. It's bigger than that. There was a man who brought his demon-possessed son to Jesus in Mark, the 9th chapter. When the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately threw the boy into a convulsion. He fell to the ground, he rolled around, and he's foaming at the mouth, it says in the 20th verse. Do you have the scene? The presence of Jesus, the enemy comes on that boy, convulsions, foaming. In the same way, the devil will throw a fit when we try to bring our friends to Jesus. But let's look what happened. The man got his son to Jesus, and Jesus delivered that boy. The truth that you and I need to take away from that story is this, that we must do all that we can to get others to Jesus. Amen. We must do all that we can to get other people to Jesus. The business of bringing others to Jesus is so important. Amen. So when it seems you can't find a way, you have to make one. You have to seize the moment. Now, another story in Luke chapter 5, we read about some friends of a paralyzed man who brought him to Jesus. Now, it would have been great. It would have been a wonderful thing when they brought him to Jesus if they could have just come through the door. Doesn't that make sense? Jesus is in the house. I'm bringing my friend to Jesus. Hey, there's the door. Let's go through the door. But they couldn't get in the door. You all Bible scholars, you know what happened. What did they do? They said, sorry, bud, we tried, but the door is closed. We've prayed about this thing, and there's just not an open door. It's closed. It must not be God's will to heal you, but we did our part. Nope, that's not what they did. That's the normal way to enter a house. But what they did is they cut a hole in some man's roof. Can you imagine being in the house and Jesus is there? And you're just in His presence and you're worshiping Him and it's totally full and all of a sudden you hear some noise. We were in our barn yesterday or my storage building. I wouldn't call it a barn. It's a little storage building. And we're trying to finish some things up and Connor was nailing the paper on top of the roof. And there was one section of that, of course, is that OSB board, which is what I would refer to as I wish I was a board. But I'm not. And I'm in there trying to get some things. It's getting dark and I'm wanting to get done. I'm wanting to get the tools in there and I'm in there. And as Connor is nailing, every time he nailed a nail into that board, junk just fell on my head. Pieces of that board just fell on my head. And I'm sitting there thinking of this story. I'm thinking, man, those people were in that room and in that house and Jesus is there and something starts falling on their head. Because I promise you, they didn't cut a hole in somebody's roof without people down there knowing what was going on. And do you think on top of that roof those guys were saying, oh, we can't do this. This stuff's going to fall on those people's head. They could care less about those people. I got a friend who's got to get to Jesus, and it's more important that he get to Jesus than whether or not they're comfortable. It's more important that they get to Jesus whether or not the traditional way was open or closed. I know this. It's not His will that any would perish. That means I'm going to do everything I can possibly do, whether it's traditional or whether it's non-traditional, whether it is the normal way or whether it's not the normal way. I'm going to do everything that I can do to get somebody to Jesus. Amen. You see, sometimes you allow a closed door to be your out for not doing what God wants you to do. You've convinced yourself that you only do something for God when there's enough room in the house to do it. When the door is open. Just because a door is closed doesn't mean it's not God's will. Please get that. Get that. Just because the door is blocked doesn't mean that it's not God's will. Don't run away from something because it's difficult. Don't run away from something because it's going to require a sacrifice. Don't run away from something because it's going to cause you to do something that's not traditional. Don't run away from something because it's not the way you always did it.
Amen. Amen.
Don't run away from something because I've never done it that way before. I'm sure these 4 guys didn't make a living of going around cutting holes in somebody's roof because somebody would have shot them. Or hit them with a rock. They just knew this is what's got to be done. And I'm going to do whatever I got to do to make sure it's done. Now listen. Those 4 guys did not cut a hole in somebody's roof. Please listen to me as I teach you. They didn't cut a hole in somebody else's roof to do something for themselves. Don't kick doors open that are closed for something for you. Okay?
Amen.
But kick a door open for something for God.
Amen.
Be willing to make the sacrifice to finish God's work. Be willing to do whatever you got to do to reach whomever you have to reach for the gospel, no matter what it takes. No matter what it takes. If it means you have to drive across town to pick them up, drive across town to pick them up. If it means you got to drag them by the hair of the head, drag them by the... Just do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. Why? Because heaven is real and hell is hot. And everybody that's ever lived is going to one of the 2 places. Anybody here going to heaven?
Yes.
Anybody here want to go to heaven? I'm going to just ask you another question. Anybody here want to go to hell? One Sunday morning I asked that question. Anybody here want to go to hell? Stand up. Had one kid in the back of the church. He just happened to be going to the bathroom at the wrong time. He wasn't paying a bit of attention to me, but man, that was bad timing on his part. We all want to go to heaven. Wasn't it good when you got saved?
Yes.
Wednesday night we talked about this. Our job is to restore, not destroy. We're here to encourage and to bless. And for those of you who are not here on Wednesday night, I'm going to sum this sermon up by just telling you this story one more time. Our job is to love and embrace, to not judge. We don't have any. There's no black coats in here, no black robes in here. We're not judges. We're to be the light of the world. We're to reach lost individuals. And as I said Wednesday night, they're babies. Even when they accept Christ, they're babies. They don't know how to live, and they don't know how to walk, they don't know how to talk. They'll learn that as they go, just like you did. I was blessed. I was raised in a pastor's home. You better believe I knew right from wrong. It was beat in me. I mean, there were some days my dad would just say, "Hey, you need a spanking." Well, I didn't do anything. Well, I probably missed something. Come on. I mean, or I'm going to get you one in advance. But he never wore me out that I didn't deserve it. As an adult, how many of you have ever gone back to your parents and confessed? Like you thought he was a priest or something. "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned," and you didn't know anything about it. I started confessing things to my dad, and he said, "Son, I knew. I knew a lot more than you thought I knew." But he knows everything. And he wants you and me to have a broken heart for the lost and to evangelize this world. If you have been revived in your heart spiritually, then I'm going to tell you what that brings. It brings evangelism. It brings... See, there's no such thing as revival without evangelism. In years past, I've heard of people driving across the country and driving this place or that so they could go to this revival and that revival, and then you find out it's just a revival of a bunch of Christians that are getting together, but there's not salvation. Well, that's not revival. That's just a party. That's just a party. There's a lot of churches today that they just had parties. They had celebration times. They just got together and did the thing. They played the music, they sang the songs, and everybody's excited. I'm not here to have a party, and I'm not here to excite you. I'm here to motivate you for the cause that God's called us to, and that is to reach the unchurched people in our community and lead them and help them to become fully devoted followers of Christ, period. It's all about that. It's not about this program or this activity or that activity or this building or that building or this building. It's all about somebody getting saved. And if nobody's getting saved and we're not seeing something happen at the altars, then why are we here? What are we doing? It's about every one of your friends and your family and your co-workers and your neighbors. It's about them coming to Jesus. It's about the reason why I've called some of my neighbors and said, listen, I'm having a cookout today. We're going to be